What is going on? We're back at it again with another episode of Combos with Dr. Andy, with the one and only Dr. Andy. Today, we're going to be talking about body positivity and the things that, and this is, look, 100% an opinion piece, right? This is Andy and I talking about a subject that we find near and dear, because I think that we, as a society, have gotten body positivity wrong. And I think that the commonly understood perspective or definition or how it's used is not a way that's beneficial for the overall general population moving forward. So let's kind of start with overall. What do you understand body positivity to be?
Personally, so I know you and I talked about the definition beforehand, off camera and off recording, but it's to me, it's this idea that you should be content or love yourself for who you are in the moment, regardless of what you look like. Now, that's my own like interpretation of that, right? So like, if for myself, because I know it's something that I've battled with prior, is like, do I love myself, who I see looking back at me in the mirror, and not putting my identity in maybe the activities that I do, or even necessarily how I look. So and I know that you'll probably touch on this in just a second, but to me, body positivity should be, you love yourself enough that you not only don't identify yourself as what you're looking at in the mirror prospectively, but also you love yourself enough to like progress towards a healthy lifestyle and health in general. So I think, and we're about to touch on this, there's a split between, in my opinion, loving yourself and using this body positivity movement or idea as almost like a crutch to, well, my genes, say that I'm going to be bigger boned or a larger, or I'm going to look a certain way, so that I should just learn to accept that and not do anything positive as far as like moving the needle as far as health. I get it. Some people can't, some men can't necessarily grow a full beard without any sort of synthetic implement, injection of a hormone or whatnot, or hair plugs. However, and some people may go bald. Okay, we're not talking about like, well, if you're bald, you should just give up, right? But you should learn to be accepting of, hey, you know what, my male balding pattern, it's a part of who I am, but I'm going to love myself anyway. But that doesn't necessarily dictate how healthy you are. So that's my opinion of it. What's yours, James?
Well, I would say that body positivity is kind of it's a social movement, right? That's rooted in a lot of things that are socially progressive, and it's oftentimes a ploy for inclusivity, right? In advertising campaigns and women's clothing and what we see as modern media representation, et cetera. And I think that representation is important, right? Like, you want to see someone in a position of power, influence, fame that looks like you, because that can be a massive beneficial influence for you to rise to the same heights. However, I think that where we've gotten it wrong is conflating body positivity, right, and morbid obesity. And I think that we've got it wrong very aggressively there, because I think that you being positive and you being loved and you being a person that is able to be loved doesn't have anything to do with the size that you are physiologically. But I think that we have to be very, very intentional, mince no words, punch people directly in the mouth, that like higher body fat percentage and potential comorbidities with obesity, diabetes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, is not a way that you should want to or aspire to live. Not because we're fat shaming, not because we're fat phobic, not because of any of that. Loving yourself enough to track yourself out of pain to the best of your ability, to find where you're having discomfort, to find where you're not loving what you're seeing, that loving yourself enough to find a way out of that through the help of other practitioners, therapists, working on what's between your two ears, I think is body positive. I think that we've got it wrong, right? In thinking that, if I love myself, I wouldn't want to change anything. I think that goes
Right.
back to the philosophical crux that is like, if you were perfect here today, right now, you were a deity and you knew everything and you were exactly perfect, exactly as you are, well, then why would you be here at all? Like, you'd be
Right.
more nihilistic in approach, right? Because why does it matter? And in my mind, it matters a whole lot. I don't know where we go after this. We're in two meat sacks right here talking across some technology with some radio frequencies, right? Like, that's where we are. But I think that we need to acknowledge, especially in a position where we could easily just skim over it, right? You and I looking the way we do, oriented the way that we are, right? In the roles that we are, we could easily overlook that, like, there's not a conflation sometimes socially and with other people
Yeah.
kind of putting pressure on it being in some ways a justification for staying larger, right? Or a pressure that everyone needs to be small. Like, small isn't healthy, big isn't healthy, right? It's a continuum. There's a lot of things that go into that. I mean, some of the best bodybuilders in the world are not healthy,
Right.
and they're jacked out of their mind, teeny body fat percentage, right? But what's everything else that's going on? And so I think that it's important for us to kind of dive into that a little bit. And so any of that you want to tee off on, go ahead. I just think that we've got to make it very clear that, like, loving others and being able to be loved is completely different than the other side of, just being a certain size or looking a certain way or fitting in a certain amount of clothes.
Yeah, I mean, simply put, we're not looking at people and even ourselves and saying that, you have to meet a certain metric of weight, height, diameter, circumference, clothing size, all that stuff, right? So we're not, and I know that this movement was, I think, predominantly started in the 60s, I believe, James, where it was, more for like females, maybe people of color, that kind of stuff, where they just wanted inclusivity. And we're not kind of going down that route, but yeah, this is we're not trying to say that you need to look a certain way to be healthy. It's more of, hey, health doesn't come with a linear size. It's a spectrum. So there are going to be people that are larger. There's going to be people that are smaller. For you and I, James, we're not going to be doing a whole lot outside of, pumping ourselves full maybe of synthetic hormones to get ourselves larger, et cetera, right? More capable of lifting weights in the gym. We've kind of fell into our natural body's state of homeostasis, right? You look different than I do, although our hair is, pretty similar outside of that, right? So what we're really trying to convey to people is that you can be healthy physically, and that'll look different for everyone. However, like you pointed out earlier, James, adiposity, there is a certain level where it's like you are reaching a precipice of unhealthiness with a certain level of adipose in your body. And that doesn't mean that you don't have to love yourself. It just might mean that, if you want to, there's room for health. There's room for growth in that department of health. And so loving yourself may not just be, you know what, I am this way because I am, and I'm just going to keep doing the things that I'm doing, right? Heading down this path that maybe will lead to some dis-ease or diseases or pathologies, right? Such as diabetes or other comorbidities along with that. On the flip side, if you're, a little bit smaller and you tend to not have a super healthy relationship with food in terms of not taking it in, there could be other sequela with that. And that's on the other end range of that. We're talking about, how do you feel? Right. Our other health markers, I'm blood pressure, heart rate, resting heart rate, right? BMI, I'm not a huge advocate for BMI because it is a very broad window. I like it as a general, like, hey, let's just take this quick metric.
Mm-hmm.
I think, James, you and I are both relatively overweight on the BMI scale. I'm
Yeah.
five,
When,
I'm 5'11" and 180,
yeah,
182.
it, when I was, when I was actually even a little bit leaner, funny enough, like a little bit leaner, I was close to obese. I had more muscle mass, right?
Yeah.
I was close to obese. And so I think that BMI, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
There's such a range that's healthy and then unhealthy. And I think
Yeah.
that having that, You just need a few metrics to be able to find that number. I don't think it's a bad thing to have. I don't think it's the health Bible either, though.
Right.
Like it's a marker, right? It's like your weight on the scale. That doesn't tell me a whole lot about anything outside of what you weigh right now. The
Right.
same way that if you get your testosterone tested, that tells me what your testosterone was in that moment that you got tested.
Yeah.
If you tell me what your blood glucose is right now, that's going to tell me what it is right now. And like, we need more data.
100%. Well, and I think too, to give people like a practical application of like, okay, well, these two guys are trying to, discrepancy between like, how to love yourself and also be healthy. They're two different things, but they can work synchronously. I think that's a word. Synchronous parallel. Okay, they can work together. So what we're saying is, no matter what your body looks like, as long as you put, for my example, and you can add on to this, James, eat whole foods, get enough sleep, right? Are you moody, irritable? Do you wake up in discomfort? Do you have discomfort throughout the day? Are you stiff? Have you lost, motion in joints that you used to have as while you were younger? Just these things that showcase vitality. Have you lost those things? Those would be like relative general markers of health that you can be in tune with your own body. If you're constantly waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, can't go back to sleep, or if you wake up every hour on the hour type deal, those are markers to tell you that something's off in your body. It has nothing to do with whether or not you love yourself, as far as maybe what you see in the mirror and all that, but just the body's trying to tell you, hey, something's a little bit off. Can you love on me more? Mm-hmm. Right. So those would be some things that, if this is you out there listening, that, if you have cravings for sweets or for salts, right, or even for water, those are your body telling you, hey, I need those things. It doesn't necessarily mean go grab like salty, vinegar chips, right? Salt and vinegar chips and down those, right? It doesn't mean go head straight for the dark chocolates, okay, chocolate covered almonds or whatever, and cram those in. But it's your body giving you indicators of, I'm not quite satiated or healthy. Same thing. If you find yourself tired 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or you have a hard time waking up, all those things are not necessarily related to, hey, do you love yourself enough? But like, is your health there? So those are some things that I really want to get across from a clinical standpoint, that, yes, you can love yourself in the mirror and you can be content with who you are, right? But metrically, as far as health goes, you can still make progress.
Yeah. And I think to kind of piggyback on top of that, I think for a lot of people that have never had a lot of stuff checked, right, have never had x-rays, have never really gone in and cared about what their physical numbers were, or their cholesterol, or anything else that the PCP gives them, right? People that have not really paid attention to that, or don't really know how all that ties in because no one's told them. Okay, that's wonderful. Well, not really wonderful, but that's okay today. What you can also do is just look at the things that you love to do, right? Do you love roller skating, hiking, walking, taking your dog out? Do you like playing team sports? Do you like playing soccer, pickup, basketball? How do you feel doing those things that you love to do, that bring you joy, that make you feel like a connected human with other people? How do you feel doing those things? Because there's a high probability that if your knees are achy when you're running up and down the pitch, right, playing rugby, or, playing soccer, or trying to jump for a rebound, there's a high probability that if you, are in a position where your knees are not feeling too great there, or you're very short of breath quickly from the time that you get out there, that your body's telling you something else too. And does it mean that you're any less worthy because you're at that level of condition, or that level of adiposity, or that level of mobility or joint function? No. Or soft tissue function? No. Does that mean that you're less than anybody else? No, outside of perhaps they're more positioned to not get injured, right? But that doesn't have to do with your self-worth. That has to do with, if we're to objectively look at who would be able to sustain more damage here in the short run, probably them, right? I think that we've got to split the two, while also recognizing that it's not negative to demand more from your body. It's not negative and bad and hate to desire more out of your body, to want lower adiposity, to want your resting heart rate to be lower, to want your blood pressure to be under control, to want to not be thirsty out of nowhere, right? It's not bad to change habits that you might be in a loop of, right? And form new ones to improve your health. Like there's nothing that doesn't make you fat phobic. That doesn't make you hating anyone. That doesn't make you better than anybody else because you're taking that step. But I think that it's important that you realize that if you don't take those steps, when your body's telling you the things that we're talking about, you waking up every hour on the hour, waking up super fatigued, or bags under your eyes, always dehydrated, can never touch your toes, hips hurt, knees hurt. If you disregard those things that are being given to you, right? The body's a crazy thing. If you disregard those for long enough, they're going to be very hard to come back from. And then it's going to be harder to psychologically love yourself because you're going to hate everything that you see, because you're going to hate everything that you feel. And that's not a one-to-one, and everyone's like that. But I can tell you a lot of people that have come to me, they got to the point where they're like, hey, I'm going to hire a coach. They're at that point. They hate what they see. And really, they hate what they see because they hate what they feel when they do the things that they love. And they've waited too long.
Or they can't do those things that they love anymore.
They are basically barred because they're immobile. They're unable to push through and do the things that they love. And so I think that's the problem. And I think it's also dangerous for us, any practitioner in health and wellness, to just chalk up, someone's adiposity being higher. And for those that don't know, I mean, we're talking about body fat here, right? But for that to be a thing, and just chalk that up to genetics. Like, I mean, yes, people have Crohn's. Yes, people have PCOS. Yes, people have type 1 and type 2 diabetes. But I can point to 5 to 10 people off the top of my head right now that have type 1 or type 2 or type 1 and had type 2 previously that have ridiculous physiques now because they took it in their own hands. Someone that's on insulin that's type 1 has a ridiculous physique, is healthy, can almost ruck further than I can, right? With their monitor on, but can do that. Yeah. Dude, that's amazing. You shouldn't love yourself any less just because something is here that was out of your control.
Yeah, I think you nailed it on the head when you said, there's no danger in wanting to do better for yourself, right? And that doesn't mean that you don't love yourself, but there's nothing wrong with striving to do better and I hate to say be better, but be healthier, right? And like let's say you are obese or overweight or have a little bit more insecurity about your body, and you want to make that change in that lifestyle, right? Whatever it is, go to a gym or just getting outside, be more active, eat better foods. It's hard to empathize, but I'll say try your best not to. If you're gonna have people that are negative in your life that say, well, why are you doing that? Like you don't love yourself enough. Like why are you making that change? Because there are people out there that potentially want to drag you down because their own insecurities, right? They're going to be questioning while you're willing to change because they're not willing to change. So if they say you putting in the work to do something better for yourself, they're not going to like that because they're going to feel left behind because they're not willing to do it. So put your blinders on, right? Try to ignore all that noise outside, or find a group or a person, somebody, accountability buddy, who can maybe do that path with you, or who's going to support you in that. Because, we've come from the side of, the more adipose or adiposity population as far as, just overweight, let's say, but even people that exercise too much, right? That are hyper vigilant as far as, their fitness and all that, you can go too far that one way, and so it's not everybody who's overweight has body image issues. Body dysmorphia is a real dysmorphia is a real thing. And people that even, have great looking bodies look in the mirror and aren't happy or satisfied with themselves. And so that's also, the same thing. They need to peel it back and from that, because that's also not too healthy. So yeah, James, I think you kind of nailed it on your head when you said, if you find yourself with any of these markers or thoughts as far as, man, I'm not satisfied with myself, it's okay to want to improve yourself, improve your health, still loving who you are.
Yeah. And I think it's almost necessary to not hate who you are in the process, because if you hate who you are in the process of trying to get healthier, you're going to resent yourself when you do become healthy. And perhaps along the way, you're going to talk yourself out of it because you hate the way that you look while you're going through it. And so I think it's even more important to love yourself and separate the two, right? Yeah. Like, where on the continuum of health am I? right? Where on the continuum of loving myself am I? Right. And don't put the
Yeah.
two stacked on top of each other, because if you do stack the two on top of each other, you just risk, some unnecessary turmoil mentally between the ears that will probably take you off the path.
Yeah. That's a good point. What do you think would be some like real uh things that people can do to help themselves? Especially, I think a lot of people understand like, okay, eating better, eat whole foods, right? Exercise, do something active, right? I think a lot of people can understand what they can, start doing today for that.
Mhm.
Um, Between the years, though, I think a lot of people have a hard time being like, well, how do I learn to love myself? So, what advice would you give to people to say like, hey, here's something I've done, or here's something that I've learned, right? That can help you with that whole psychological loving yourself in between the years.
I think it's very easy when you set out to achieve any kind of goals that you can tie back to metrics or you can tie back to visuals, that you change the aim from the outcome goal to a process goal. You change the goal from, hey, I want to lose 20 pounds to, I'm going to do the things that someone needing to lose 20 pounds needs to do. And I think you do the same thing with psychological side, right? So you're like, it's dangerous to be like, I'll love myself when I'm this amount of pounds down. I'll
Mm-hmm.
love myself when I have a six pack. I'll love myself
Mm-hmm.
when yada yada yada. Because what happens if, right? Let's play a hypothetical out here. What happens if you say, "Hey, I'll love myself when I have a six pack," but genetically, even at the body fat percentage where you have a six pack, you don't have it visually because of how your genetics are. But you have a six pack. You're at the body fat percentage where you would show a six pack, where someone that has one would. What if you just don't have protruding abs at that body fat percentage?
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you not love yourself ever? Because it's going to be impossible unless you start taking exogenous hormones to get very rounded out big abs. Like, you're going to always move the goalposts. I think that to love yourself, you have to accept that you are where you are first. You have to 100% accept that by your own doing today, right here, Friday, August 18th, you are where you are. That combines everything that's happened to you that's out of your control with everything that you have or have not done to move yourself forward, right? In that situation, you've got to accept that you are where you are. If you don't accept where you are, that you are where you are, you really can't move forward there, because it's always going to be, well, I'll be happy when, it's the if then when, you know, or if when then. It's if when then. And it's the same thing that you look at with materialism. All right, I'll be happy when I'm rich. No, you won't.
Mm.
You'll just be rich and unhappy. Like that's not. You're not. You know. You look at something like chiropractic too, right? Like if you, as a chiropractor, just adjust all day and you don't get to the root cause, you don't do X-rays, you don't do a thorough medical history, you don't figure out what's actually going on, what's causing the the misalignments, right? The
Mm-hmm.
subluxations, you know the the
Underlying
things that, yeah,
pathologies.
yeah. If you just are like, oh, it's just an adjustment, let's keep moving. That's kind of like just taking anything out of the blue for your health or your mental, right? If you're just like, oh, I'll just, if I do this, then when I do this, if I have this happen, when I do this, then this will happen. Like, get out of here. That's only, I mean, that's a band-aid, right? That's part of the process. But but you can't do that forever. It has to be combined with a thorough understanding of what's happening.
So what's something that somebody could do today? Like, is it as simple as like writing something on the mirror, saying
Oh,
like
dude, I'll just interrupt you. Stare at yourself in the mirror naked for 5 minutes on a timer.
5 minutes on a timer?
Put a timer on your phone, put it on 5 minutes, flip it over, blast it on loud. No music. Just look at yourself. 5 minutes.
Is that something you've done before?
Yes. 5 minutes.
Did somebody tell you to do that, or were you just like, I'm gonna do this?
I think I was listening to, I think it was something that it came to mind. I had listened to Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, right? And
Okay.
like the accountability mirror. But I was like, hold
Yep.
on. What if you looked at that and applied that to how you love yourself?
Okay. So yeah, so David Goggins, yeah, because I read his book. I know we both have. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that
Yeah.
makes
And
sense.
then
So
somebody else said it online, like very similarly. I saw a reel about it and I was like, damn, that is exactly what I tried to do. So I did it again.
so
And
did you
good.
go ahead?
No good.
So did you do 5 minutes one time that first day, or is that something you did like day after day after day until you
I'm
just
not a fan of let's work up to something. Like if you're
okay.
trying to squeeze out psychological discomfort, I think that that's a dangerous way to do it because you're always putting a governor on. I think you should test your limits safely, right? As opposed to small spurts of discomfort. I think that you should just test your limit. Now, I'm not talking about with exercise. Well, let me be very clear. I'm
Yes.
talking like if you're gonna do a cold shower, I don't think that you get in there and you say 15 seconds and I'm done. I think you get in there and you stay in there until you quit.
For as long as you can. Yeah.
Yes, and I'm not talking about 36-degree water. Okay, I'm talking about a cold shower. Like let's not mince words here.
No, no hypothermia.
Yeah, no, I'm not suggesting anyone goes that direction, but tap water out of your shower is not going to get that cold. Don't play with
Right.
me, right? So I think those kind of things, intentional intentional step forward towards discomfort, I think is one of the first ways that you will then bring awareness to what you're insecure about, bring awareness to what you don't like, bring awareness to the things that you hide. And you can only really have shame about something when it's in darkness. Once you shine a light on it and you're willing to shine a light on it publicly too, maybe at some point, right? You got to shine a light on it for yourself first. But that's a step to going to a place where it doesn't have power over you anymore. But until you're willing to do that, until you're willing to admit and accept where you are today and all the roles or no roles, right? And all the exercise or no exercise, booty bone naked, clothed in 14 layers, like until you're willing to accept yourself in this moment, it won't change.
Yeah. That's good stuff, man. Yeah. We love you kind of no matter what size, however much fat you have in your body, however little fat you have in your body. I think all respect for that. Definitely promoters for improving your health overall, though. I think we both
Yeah.
stand for that.
And I think shame is not the way to go. You know, I think that you can shame yourself into movement, shame yourself into food, whatever, but I think it has downstream effects that are not too great. I think
Yeah.
awareness and acceptance of where you are is the first step. But I may just be heady and be a little bit more positive than some are.
Now we agree on that, man. So whether people want to agree with us or not.
It's all good. We're here for you to get better with your health, whether you ever see us or not. That's really the goal here. So I think we'll end that episode there. Appreciate y'all listening or watching. The video is not going to be screwed up this week. So if you're seeing this, you will know that by this point. And we will chat with y'all later.